You won't believe what happened when the HOA ordered me to remove my boat. It started out as a simple request, something about rules and regulations that I supposedly broke. But what they didn't expect was how I'd respond, instead of quietly. Taking my boat out, I took a stand that nobody saw coming. I ended up fencing off the entire Marina S, the very place they and a lot of other people depend on every single day. This wasn't just about a boat anymore. It became a battle over rights, control, and community. From the moment I got that notice, things escalated fast. The HOA seemed determined to make an example out of me, but they didn't realize I had. More than just stubbornness on my side, had a plan. This story is about more than just one person fighting an unfair rule. It's about standing up when the system feels stacked against you, about neighbors caught in the middle, and about how far someone will go to protect what's theirs. The marina isn't just water and docks, it's a lifeline for so many families, fishermen, and boat lovers. Fencing it off wasn't an easy decision, and it certainly wasn't without consequences. Some people called it drastic, others said it was necessary, but one thing's for sure, it changed everything. Relationships in the community started shifting. Tensions rose, and nobody really knew how this would end. As I stand here now, looking at that locked gate and the water beyond, I can't help but wonder what the next chapter holds. Will the HOA push back harder? Will the neighbors side with me, or will I be left isolated? There's a storm brewing, and this is just the beginning. Stay tuned, because the full story will blow your mind, and it's far from over. Before all this chaos started, I was just like any other boat owner enjoying peaceful days at the marina. It was my escape, my place to unwind after long work weeks. I'd spend weekends fixing up my boat, sharing stories with neighbors, and watching the sunset over the water. The marina was more than a spot to dock, it was a small community, a shared space where people felt connected. That's why the HOA's sudden crackdown hit me so hard. The notice to remove my boat came out of nowhere. According to the HOA, I was violating a newly enforced rule about boat sizes and placement. They claimed it was about keeping the marina safe and orderly, but honestly, it felt personal. I wasn't the only one affected, but somehow, I became their main target. Every attempt to talk things out was met with cold, formal letters or vague threats of fines. The HOA board seemed determined to push me out. That's when things got complicated. The marina's community started to fracture. Some neighbors sided with the HOA, worried about the rules and what would happen if they weren't enforced. Others quietly supported me, frustrated with how the HOA was handling everything. I could feel the tension growing with every passing day. When I decided to fence off the marina, I knew it was a risk. I wasn't just fighting for my boat anymore. I was standing up for a way of life that felt threatened. Locking the gates was my way of showing that I wouldn't back down without a fight. But I also knew this move could backfire. The HOA could escalate, and who knows how far they'd go to break the standoff. Now, with the marina blocked and the community divided, the question isn't just about a boat anymore. It's about control, fairness, and what people are willing to do when pushed too far. The next steps, that's anyone's guess. But one thing's clear, this battle is far from over. As the days went by, the situation around the marina grew more complicated. The HOA wasn't just sending letters anymore. They started holding emergency meetings, bringing in lawyers, and even talking about involving local authorities. Their main argument was about community standards and property values. But it felt like they were more focused on making an example out of me than actually solving any real problem. Meanwhile, some neighbors who once greeted me with smiles now avoided eye contact or whispered behind closed doors. It was clear, the divide was deeper than I thought. On the other side, a small group of boat owners and local residents quietly rallied in support. They saw the marina as more than just property. It was a shared space where families created memories and neighbors helped each other. Some of them started asking tough questions about the HOA's transparency and decision-making process. Why? Were these rules enforced so suddenly? Was it really about safety, or was there something else driving their actions? The mystery around the HOA's motivations added fuel to the fire, and rumors began spreading about possible development plans or hidden agendas. At the same time, I faced pressure from outside the marina too. Friends and family wondered if I was overreacting or risking too much for just a boat. But to me, it was about standing up against unfair treatment and protecting a community that felt like home. It wasn't just a fight for myself. It was about drawing a line when people start losing their voice in decisions that affect their lives. Tensions were mounting from all sides. The locked gates created a physical barrier, but the real battle was happening in conversations, emails, and behind the scenes. Every day brought new challenges, new setbacks, and more questions than answers. No one knew what the next move would be, whether the HOA would escalate their tactics, or if the community could find a way to come together again as the sun set on the marina. The water was calm, but the storm beneath the surface was far from over. The weeks that followed were some of the most intense I've ever experienced. Every morning, I'd wake up wondering if I'd find a new notice slipped under my door. Or worse, someone trying to cut through the fence I'd put up. The HOA's presence felt heavier than ever, like a storm cloud hovering over the marina. Rumors started swirling that they were planning a full legal assault, possibly eviction notices or fines so high I'd have no choice but to back down. Neighbors were more divided than ever. Some came by quietly, offering words of encouragement, or sharing their own stories of frustration with the HOA. Others avoided the marina altogether, afraid of getting dragged into the conflict or losing favor with the board. It was heartbreaking to see friendships strained and community bonds tested over what should have been a simple dispute. At the same time, a few surprising voices emerged. Local journalists got wind of the story, and suddenly, what was once a private fight became public. This added a new layer of pressure, not just from the HOA, but from the spotlight shining on all of us. Supporters urged me to hold strong, saying that standing up to the HOA was bigger than just one person or one boat. It was about fairness and fighting back when rules feel unfairly imposed. But the HOA wasn't silent either. They ramped up their messaging, sending letters to the entire neighborhood warning about the consequences of breaking the rules. They even threatened to take control of the marina, cutting off access completely if things didn't change. The tension was unbearable. Every conversation felt like walking on thin ice. Every step forward shadowed by the fear of what might come next. One evening, as I stood by the locked gates, watching the sun sink behind the water, I knew we were reaching a breaking point. The battle over the marina wasn't just about boats or fences anymore. It was about power, community, and who really has the right to decide what happens in a place so many call home. What would happen next? That's where the story turns right. At the edge of the unknown, just when I thought things couldn't get any more intense, a new shock hit the marina like a tidal wave. Late one night, I received an anonymous tip that the HOA wasn't just enforcing rules, they were secretly negotiating to sell part of the marina land to a big developer. That explained the sudden strictness and the harsh crackdown on boat owners. Like me, the quiet community space we all loved was at risk of being turned into something completely different, something none of us had agreed to. This revelation shook me to the core. It wasn't just about my boat anymore. It was about the future of the entire marina and everyone who depended on it. The HOA's push to remove boats and tighten control suddenly looked less like safety concerns and more like a strategic move. To clear the way for development, it felt like a betrayal, and I wasn't alone in thinking so. I reached out to a few neighbors who still trusted me, and together we started digging deeper. The more we uncovered, the clearer it became that the HOA board was divided. Some members were genuinely trying to protect the community, while others were pushing for the sale behind closed doors. The tension within the board mirrored the tension in the neighborhood trust, breaking down everywhere. With this new layer of conflict, the stakes skyrocketed. The marina wasn't just fenced off physically any. RIT was caught in a battle over control, secrets, and power. The community meetings grew heated. Voices were raised and accusations flew. Some people demanded transparency, while others feared the fallout if the sale went through. As the marina remained locked and the threat of losing our shared space loomed closer, I realized this fight was bigger than I ever imagined. The clock was ticking, and the choices we made now could change everything forever. The question was, who would win this battle and at what cost? The next move could change the marina's story completely. Just when it seemed like everything was spiraling out of control, the community came together in a way no one expected. After weeks of tension, heated meetings, and growing divisions, a neighborhood vote was called to decide the marina's future. It was the moment everyone had been waiting for, the chance to have their voices heard and maybe turn the tide. On the day of the vote, the marina was packed. People who had been silent before stepped forward to share their stories and hopes. Even some HOA board members who had pushed for the sale admitted they hadn't anticipated how strongly the community would react. The debate was fierce, but what stood out was the overwhelming desire to protect the marina, the place that meant so much to all of us. When the votes were counted, the result was clear. The sale was rejected, and plans to enforce the harsh boat removal rules were put on hold. It felt like a win, not just for me, but for everyone who fought to keep the marina alive and accessible. The fence came down, boats were welcomed back, and for a moment, the community seemed ready to heal. But just as relief settled in, an unexpected twist surfaced. During the final meeting, a leaked email revealed that a different group, a private investor, had quietly been eyeing the marina all along, planning to swoop in if the HOA deal fell through. Suddenly, the threat wasn't over. It had just shifted to a new player, one even less connected to the community. The marina was safe for now, but the real battle was far from finished. We'd won a crucial fight, but the future still felt uncertain. This story isn't just about a boat or a fence, it's about standing up for what you love, facing unexpected challenges, and knowing that sometimes the biggest surprises come when you think the war is over. And with that, the marina's story and ours was just beginning. After the leaked email came to light, the community knew it was time to stay even more united. We organized new meetings, this time with a focus on transparency and communication. Everyone agreed that protecting the marina wasn't just about stopping one group or another, it was about preserving a space that brought people together and mattered deeply to all of us. The private investor's interest made it clear that that the marina was valuable, but it also reminded us how important it was to have a strong, active community voice. We formed a neighborhood committee to keep an eye on any future developments and to work with the HOA in a way that was fair and open. It wasn't about fighting each other anymore. It was about finding solutions that respected everyone's needs. As for me, I kept my boat docked proudly at the marina, a symbol of what we fought for. The fence came down, but the lessons stayed. This experience taught me that sometimes standing up for what's right means taking risks and facing tough battles. It showed me the power of community when people come together, even in the face of conflict and uncertainty. Looking back, this whole ordeal was more than just a dispute over a boat or a marina. It was about fairness, respect, and having a voice. The marina is still here, still a place where families gather, friendships grow, and memories are made. And while the future will always bring challenges, we proved that standing together makes all the difference. So, if you ever feel like you're up against a wall, remember this story. Sometimes the hardest fights lead to the strongest bonds. And sometimes, the place you love most is worth defending no matter what.